We're all familiar with the landmarks that define travel brochures today, but what about the ones that vanished? Our planet Earth was once filled with awe-inspiring sights that no longer exist, from waterfalls that rivaled Niagara in scale to colossal 180-foot monuments that vanished without a trace. These places were once swarming with tourists, and now they're just stories. So join us in today's video as we count down 15 famous tourist attractions that no longer exist. Number 15. Maya Bay. Some places aren't destroyed by war or weather, they're loved to death. Maya Bay, hidden among the Phi Phi Islands in Thailand, was once a near-perfect sanctuary. Towering limestone cliffs hugged the cove, clear blue waters shimmered in the sun, and the sand seemed virgin. Then came the fame. After Leonardo DiCaprio's 2000 film The Beach turned it into a cinematic paradise, the real crowds followed. What was once a hidden gem became overrun by boats, sunscreen, and trampling feet. Day after day, thousands arrived, each one leaving behind more than just footprints. The coral reefs faded, the wildlife retreated, the balance broke. By 2018, the damage was irreversible without intervention. The Thai government made a bold call: shut it down indefinitely. No tourists, no boats, just silence and the hope of healing. It wasn't just about saving a beach, it was about remembering that beauty fades when it's taken for granted. Maya Bay still exists, but now it's learning to breathe again slowly, without an audience. Number 14. Coral Castle Original Site. In the early 20th century, Edward Leeds Calnan built something strange just south of Miami. Using only hand tools, he carved massive blocks of coral rock, some weighing over 20 tons, and arranged them into a complex of walls, chairs, tables, and even a telescope. He worked alone and mostly at night, never revealing exactly how he moved the stones. The site quickly gained attention for its mystery and craftsmanship, but few people remember that the coral castle we see today isn't the original. The first version was built miles away. In the 1930s, Ed decided to move everything, every stone, every sculpture to a new location. He did it all by himself, again without cranes or trucks. The original layout, the raw first version of his strange monument, is gone. There are no photos or maps, just second-hand stories. The current coral castle is impressive, but the site where the obsession began, where Ed first tested his ideas, that version disappeared the day he packed it all up and rolled it away. But how did he make it? Number 13. Azure Window. The Azure Window on the island of Gozo, Malta, was a natural limestone arch that looked like it belonged in a fantasy film, and eventually it did. Formed from the collapse of a sea cave, it became one of Malta's most iconic landmarks. Its striking shape has appeared in films and TV shows like Game of Thrones, turning it into a magnet for tourists and photographers around the world. But in March 2017, a powerful storm rolled in. The waves hit hard, and the arch couldn't take it anymore. It collapsed entirely, disappearing into the sea. The news spread fast, like Donald Trump's tariff drama. People were shocked, especially those who had visited, or hoped to one day. While the underwater remains have turned into a diving spot, the towering arch that once framed the horizon is gone. Its silhouette, once seen on countless postcards, now lives only in memory. The site still draws visitors, but what they come to see no longer stands. Number 12. Duckbill Rock. Some losses feel personal, even if you never saw them with your own eyes. Along the Oregon coast, on the cliffs of Cape Kiwanda, there once stood a rock formation shaped so perfectly, so strangely like a duck's bill. It seemed too whimsical to be real. Nature carved it over millions of years, a quiet sculpture that caught the Pacific wind and ocean spray. Tourists adored it. Locals knew it well. Then, in 2016, a blurry video surfaced. A group of young, foolish men are pushing it, tipping it, laughing as it shattered. Let's say just a few hands and a moment of thoughtless destruction. The duckbill collapsed, and with it, a piece of shared wonder. The area is still breathtaking. Cliffs, sea, wind, But something's missing. A shape, a story. A natural monument that once stood for no reason other than that it could, and now, it can't. Cape Kiwanda still welcomes visitors, but it does so with a quiet, hollow space where a duck once watched the waves. Number 11. Sutro Baths. The Sutro Baths once stood as an enormous public bathhouse complex on San Francisco's coastline, built in 1894 by Adolph Sutro, a former mayor with big dreams. It wasn't just a pool, it was 7 pools, each with different temperatures, built inside a glass structure that could fit up to 10,000 people. There was also a museum filled with oddities, a concert hall, and an arena. It was massive, ambitious, and ahead of its time. But behind the spectacle was a problem: the cost. Maintenance, staffing, utilities, it all added up. By the mid-1900s, it became too much. The baths closed in 1964. 2 years later, while the site was being cleared for redevelopment, a fire broke out and destroyed what was left. No one could say for sure how it started. Now, only the concrete ruins remain near Ocean Beach, weathered, rust-stained, and slowly being reclaimed by the Pacific. What was once a grand experiment in public luxury is now a quiet shell of the past. Number 10. Pink and white terraces. Once called the 8th wonder of the world, New Zealand's pink and white terraces were formed by geothermal springs flowing over silica-rich rock, creating tiered pools in stunning shades. They lined the shores of Lake Rotomahana, and in the 19th century, travelers from around the world came to see their otherworldly beauty and bathe in the warm, mineral-rich waters. But in 1886, Mount Tarawera erupted pretty violently. The explosion tore through the landscape, burying the terraces under layers of mud, ash, and rock. Entire villages were wiped out, and over 150 lives were lost. For decades, it was believed that the terraces were completely gone. More recently, researchers found signs that parts of them may still lie beneath the lake, hidden under sediment. Still, the terraces as they once were, glimmering in sunlight, untouched and intact, are gone. What remains now is mostly underwater speculation and the faded sketches and paintings from the people lucky enough to have seen them. We feel sad. Number 9. Palmyra. Palmyra wasn't just ancient ruins, it was a meeting point of worlds. Positioned between east and west, the city had Greek columns, Roman temples, Persian influences, and carvings that told stories in multiple tongues. Trade routes once crossed through its gates. Travelers, scholars, and emperors knew its name. But in 2015, the modern world failed to protect it. ISIS seized the city and carried out calculated destruction, blowing up temples, smashing statues, and leveling the iconic Arch of Triumph. They claimed it was a religious doctrine. The real motive, erasing culture, destroying history. What had stood for over 2,000 years was reduced to scattered stone. Satellite images and on-the-ground footage captured the loss in real time. Experts around the world were devastated. Palmyra was more than Syria's heritage. It was humanity's. And though some fragments remain, the full picture can never be restored. The city still stands in part, but the pieces that gave it soul have been stolen forever. Number 8. Guaira Falls. There was once a thunder that came from the land, a wall of water crashing with such force that it silenced everything around it. Guaira Falls, on the border of Brazil and Paraguay, roared with more power than Niagara. It was a series of falls spreading and plunging with unstoppable momentum. Entire villages would pause just to listen. And then one day the sound stopped. In 1982, construction began on the Itapu Dam, a hydroelectric project, so vast it swallowed the falls whole. As the dam filled, the river rose and Guaira's roar faded beneath a growing reservoir. Eventually, even the rock formations were blasted away, a race to clear the path for machinery. What had taken nature millions of years to shape disappeared in a matter of months. The land grew quiet. Now only the stories remain, passed down by those who stood near the edge and felt the earth vibrate beneath them. Water still flows, but the spirit that once thundered through Guaira is gone. Number 7. Boeung Kak Lake. There was a time when Boeung Kak Lake was the heartbeat of a Phnom Penh neighborhood. Children played at the shoreline. Fishermen cast nets. Families gathered in floating homes. The lake wasn't just scenic, it was essential. Then came the deal. In the mid-2000s, the government leased the lake to a private developer. The trucks arrived. The sand was dumped. Slowly, the lake disappeared under piles of soil and concrete. No public vote, no delay. Over 4,000 families were pushed out, many with nowhere to go. Protests followed, and arrests happened. But the development continued. Today, the lake is gone, replaced by high-rise buildings, empty lots, and political scars. Boeung Kak was erased, not by nature or time, but by policy. And what was once a community defined by water is now just another patch of urban sprawl. The people didn't forget. The pain didn't fade, but the lake, that chapter's over. What do you think about it? Number 6. Buddhas of Bamiyan. The Buddhas of Bamiyan once stood tall in Afghanistan's Bamiyan Valley, carved directly into the cliffside like massive sentinels of stone. Created in the 6th century, these statues weren't just religious icons, they were cultural landmarks. The tallest reached 180 feet, making it the largest standing Buddha in the world at the time. In March 2001, that history came crashing down. The Taliban declared the statues blasphemous and used explosives to destroy them, leaving behind nothing but rubble. The world watched, horrified, as a piece of human heritage was wiped out in days. Now the alcoves where they once stood remain hollow, silent reminders of what was lost. The valley has since been named a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but the damage is done. There's been talk of rebuilding, and at times holograms are projected into the empty niches, but the originals, the ones that stood through centuries of wind and war, are gone. What's left is absence. Number 5. Lake Poopo. Lake Poopo was once Bolivia's second largest lake, stretching wide across the Altiplano. It supported a rich ecosystem and provided water for fishing, farming, and wildlife. Communities lived along its shores, their lives tied closely to the rhythms of the lake. But in 2016, everything changed. The lake dried up completely. This wasn't the first time Poopo had vanished before in 1994, but this time the damage was worse. The reasons weren't mysterious. Rising temperatures, less rainfall, and water diverted upstream for mining and agriculture pushed it past recovery. Boats were stranded on cracked earth. Fish and birds disappeared. Families who depended on the lake were forced to leave. Scientists warned about climate change, but for many locals, the warnings came too late. Today, Lake Poopo exists mostly in memories and on maps that haven't been updated. Where water once shimmered, there's dust. The landscape changed, and so did the people who used to call its shores home. Alright guys, now let's talk about number 4. Wedding Cake Rock. Mother Nature shaped it perfectly, without any flaws. A flat, layered white rock perched above the sea, looking almost too clean to be real, like some sculptor with a sense of humor decided to plop a giant wedding cake right on a cliff edge in New South Wales. And for a while it was just a quiet gem in the Royal National Park. But then came the influencers. The yoga poses, the dangling feet. A perfect photo op was worth more than common sense. When one visitor slipped to their death, the mood around Wedding Cake Rock changed. It wasn't just fragile, it was fatal. Geologists confirmed the worst. The entire slab was cracking, barely clinging to the edge. A fence went up. Fines followed. But people, like they do, still jumped it, drawn like moths to the image they'd seen online. Now it's off limits. Still beautiful, still there. But the freedom to stand on it, to touch it, to feel the wind from that ledge, that chapter is now closed permanently. Number 3. Jonah Sip's tomb. Jonah's tomb stood in Mosul for generations, drawing pilgrims from all over the world. Revered in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the site was said to hold the remains of the prophet swallowed by the great fish. Built over centuries, layer upon layer, it wasn't just a shrine, It was a record of time. In 2014, that record was destroyed. ISIS, in control of the area, planted explosives and reduced the tomb to rubble. The footage was released online, cold, calculated, and final. They said it was about erasing idolatry, but what they erased was shared memory. The loss hit hard across faiths. Archaeologists mourned the layers of history now buried. Locals lost a sacred site. What had survived war after war, empire after empire, was wiped out in seconds. The tomb is gone. The hill it stood on remains empty, and with it, 1,000 years of belief, reverence, and ritual were left in the dust. We mean, how can they do that? Our history, as we all know, is totally changed, and doing that kind of thing is really sad and disappointing. Number 2. Chacaltaya Glacier. Chacaltaya was once the kind of place that shouldn't exist, a ski resort over 17,000 feet above sea level, where visitors glided across snowfields with the Andes stretching out below them. It was small, rustic, and operated mostly by local clubs, but that didn't matter. What mattered was the glacier. It had been there for over 18,000 years, long before humans set foot in the region. Then, in a matter of decades, it vanished. By 2009, the glacier had melted completely, not reduced, not retreated, gone. Scientists had warned it would happen by 2015. It beat their estimate by 6 years. The cause wasn't a mystery. Rising temperatures, shrinking snowpack, and changes in rainfall. Locals lost a water source. Scientists lost a research site, and skiers, they lost something irreplaceable. What remains now is the skeletal lift station, old signs, and bare mountain rock. Chacaltaya isn't a ski resort anymore. It's a warning carved into stone. Number 1. Cave of Altamira. Long before museums and glass cases, humans carved their stories directly into stone. Deep in northern Spain, the cave of Altamira became an accidental time capsule filled with vivid paintings of bison, deer, and wild boars created more than 14,000 years ago. The colors still clung to the cave walls like fresh pigment. For decades, crowds made pilgrimages to witness it firsthand, unaware that every breath, every humid gust from modern lungs was slowly destroying the art. Mold crept across the walls like a thief in the night, feeding on moisture from thousands of visitors. Scientists watched helplessly as this fragile miracle began to disappear. So, in 2002, they did the unthinkable. They closed the cave completely. No more tourists, no more photos, just silence. A replica was built nearby, painstakingly faithful, but even that couldn't recreate the reverence of standing in front of the real thing. The cave still exists, technically, but as a tourist attraction, that part of its story is already over. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon.